You want your clients to love you. That's obvious. You also want all the people you work with, like the attorneys and lenders, etc., to be so excited when they see your name on a contract as the agent. So today I am going to tell you 12 things that attorneys love when you do this, and so do your clients. First, they provide a complete contract package right up front. So this is the signed contract, any addenda to the contract, their contact information for their client. All of those things are packaged together neatly and provided to everybody who needs it, so the lender and the attorney. And the other thing about this, the reason why we love when you actually give us the information is when we send you the buyer information sheet and you don't pass it along, and you're like, why didn't you send my buyer the information sheet? And you didn't actually send us their contact information. That is why. I know the good agents don't do this, but we have plenty of agents that just don't tell us their clients' information. So please don't be one of those. Next, the verified earnest money receipt. So they actually share with the appropriate parties that the earnest money was delivered and accounted for. Our office, when we get earnest money, we're signing off saying, yep, we've got it, giving that back to the agent so that they've got it for their file. But that agent would also be sharing it with their client to confirm, hey, all this is buttoned up. Next, they are making sure, and in some cases even hounding their clients to make sure they return their information sheets to the attorney. This allows us to request HOA dues and request payoffs early in the process so we don't have any delays. Now, we can't request a seller's payoff to be included on the closing statement to actually cancel the loan if we don't have the information about the loan provided on that seller information sheet. So if we've got a seller that is, 7 days out from closing and still hasn't given it back, what if the lender requires a 10-day turnaround to get the payoff? Now closing is delayed. So agents, stay on top of those clients to make sure that they return those information sheets. You don't have to be involved in sending it, but making sure that they did it is extremely helpful. Next up, number 4, checking the legal names. This sounds so simple, but confirming that the names that are on the contract are matching the deed, that match the client's IDs that you have, that they're actually the right people and they actually have ownership in the property. If you are on the buyer side of things, making the contract match what the lender's title request will say and will actually match the IDs of the clients. So important. This is often neglected. We get different names from lenders than we got on the contract. Easily 50% of the time. This would really clean a lot of things up if things were checked on ahead of time. It's not major to be able to fix it, but it can be really annoying if the change for your clients, if the change is significant enough that it requires the contract to be amended. Number 5, keeping version control clean. So if there's something that's been voided out, making sure that it's marked as such. If you're sharing documents with your client, making sure they have the most recent items always. There are addendums that can happen to the contract all the way up till the day of closing. There might be the first addendum gets changed by the second addendum and so on and so forth. So making sure that what is active and applies to the deal is what the client is aware of and that they're not getting confused by things that no longer apply. Number 6, wire instructions. I'm not saying give the client the wiring instructions, but I am saying make sure that they verify the wiring instructions. Your clients will ultimately love you even if they're annoyed by having to verify, and the attorneys will definitely love you if you are making sure that your client verifies the wiring instructions before they send a wire. If you're on the seller side of things, making sure that the seller is either attending closing so they can deliver the wiring instructions in person with the attorney, or that those are being notarized when the seller documents are being signed to provide to the closing attorney, making sure that your sellers understand they cannot email wiring instructions and an attorney rely on those. We cannot rely on emailed wiring instructions, that we have to have original notarized instructions for seller proceeds. Number 7, a calendar invited signing appointment. Depending on the closing attorney and which software they use, sometimes this is included in the software, sometimes it's not. But as the agent, you have things that maybe you want to make sure your client knows. Maybe you've got the walkthrough first and then you're going to the attorney's office. There could be all kinds of things that you need your client to know that will be happening day of that don't involve the signing. So you could send them a calendar invite with where to be at what time, what do they need to bring, what do they need to expect, and then also the addresses. And it's, calendar invite, it'll show up on their phone. It'll be really hard for them to say, oh, I thought you told me 11:30. When they've got an actual calendar invite. Number 8 is a weekly status snapshot. If you are tech savvy, you could probably automate this, But it could be just as easy as on Friday morning, you're saying, hey, this is where we are this week. These things happened. This is what we expect for next week. We're right on track. Or we're running a little behind on this. Maybe we don't have the survey back yet, but we expect it by Tuesday of next week. It doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be fancy, but the fact that it's happening on a certain cadence and your clients know to expect it and the attorney may know where to expect it is really helpful, and your clients will love you for it. All right, a repair tracking sheet, number 9. This one I think is pretty cool because you can have your list of things that you've requested on a due diligence repair request, and maybe the seller has agreed to, but it could get hectic keeping track of when it was done, by whom, etc. So just a quick little list of, hey, seller agreed to make this repair. It's being done on this date. Check off it was done correctly, so on and so forth. And you can share that with the clients. If you do it digitally, it can just be in a shared Excel or a shared Google Drive so that everybody can see what's going on. Next, attorneys especially love this one. Survey issues, title flagging of potential issues that may come up. If you know when you go under contract that you've walked the property and you're pretty dang sure that the driveway is shared or that it's on the neighboring property or it's encroaching on the neighbor's property, bring that up first. You don't have to wait until the survey results come in. We could be doing based on what you've observed. Even if you're not 100% sure about it, it could alert us to things to dig in further in the title search to see if there's some sort of easement of record that could be very important to your client. It gives us a chance to say, okay, maybe there is an encroachment. Here's what we will need to do if that turns out to be true, and get all of the important parties that are required to be involved in that alerted first. Maybe it ends up not being a problem. In that case, awesome. But if we find out later, when you had an idea 2 weeks before, we've lost 2 weeks of valuable time of preparing agreements, getting arrangements for parties to sign, etc. So bring it up front, even if you're not 100% sure. If you think it could be an issue, flag it to the attorney and say, hey, buyer, we need to be on the lookout for this. We need to be prepared for if that turns out to be a problem. Number 11, a walkthrough readiness checklist for your buyers. Just letting them know, hey, on the walkthrough, these are the things we got to make sure. We got to make sure any repairs were done. We got to make sure all of the personal belongings are out. Got to make sure any agreed upon items that are supposed to remain are done. Got to make sure there were no new damages from when we went under contract. And then also, once we close, you got to do this for your utilities. So basically, everything to be looking out for the walkthrough and what's to come after the closing. And then finally, closing day courtesy kit, copies of, the recorded deed, any settlement statements, any HOA information that you've been provided. The closing attorney is going to give those things electronically and some of those things physically. But I love when agents kind of have their own version of that and they come to the closing with it because they're like, listen, I know you, I know what's important to you, buyer. I got it all in this folder. And then we can just add to it with the recorded deed, etc. once those things are done. So I love these things. I love seeing an agent do it and then seeing my clients, the buyers and our mutual clients just kind of light up and be really excited to know that their agent just did something extra to look out for them. Make some raving fans. They're telling all of their friends, anybody that wants to buy a house, oh, you got to use my agent.